Hey everyone. Um, I'm in a bit of a state where I've got all these things in I'm thinking about, and I've got a clear, cohesive line of thought, and there's just so many things there. So I just got to talk maybe for a minute or so that I can um, talk about such a difficult subject. Um, and I'll try and stop saying because it's such an easy thing to do, and it's a common speech impediment. Uh, I want to talk about bullies and narcissistic abuse. There's a lot of narcissists in the world, and there's a lot of bullying. So I'll go back to childhood. Children bully each other, and they don't stop. I'm not going to go into details about the psychology of it, but some children work out early on that they get to attack people and um, hurt them using words mostly. Other children are being abused or bullied themselves, and they bully others without knowing, or just as a mimicking act, or a way to for them to um, deal with their own bullying. The if if there was less bullying in the world, people wouldn't be weaker. We would work together more. That's my belief. There is also an unsaid thing about bullying, that it makes you stronger. So people think that by knocking or attacking other people, it's toughening them up. Some people think that some bullies think that it's their right to attack others. They think that the person deserves it. I live in a country, the country of Australia, where there is a cultural bullying. It's almost like a term of endearment where people make fun of each other, and it's hard to take, but once you understand it, it's not always bullying, and that's a bit of a contradiction there. So Um, I'll give you an example. Someone does something good, and someone comes along and tears them down, knocks them, and makes fun of them. In that situation, it's the Aussie knocking, like tall poppy syndrome is what it's been called as well. But it's different to that, and it doesn't exist as much today because it's a different situation in modern times. The bullying is still there. It just doesn't occur on the same level as what it used to do. It used to be a common thing. So today, I'm quite withdrawn from society. So I try and avoid social interaction to minimize my um, instances where I might be attacked. But it's something that I've suffered from early childhood through high school, primary school, high school, studying, and more so in workplaces. Workplaces are a hotbed for narcissists to single out an individual and attack them. And they will try and break you down, especially if you've got talents or you work hard. If you work hard or you've got talents or potential, the narcissist will come for you and they'll find out your weaknesses and they will attack you. And unless you are resilient or you've got strategies to deal with this, then you're going to have troubles. Um, I've also won against these bullies and narcissists in many workplaces where they've tried to break me down, and they have broken me almost down completely to the point where I've wanted to quit. Um, but they've gotten to a point where they've pulled back, and um, you do learn techniques to how to deal with these people, but you don't necessarily remember exactly what you did. And even if you do remember what you did, you're not going to be able to repeat that the next time it happens, because when you're put on the spot, you get put into the um, situation where you either shut down. You mostly shut down. Well, I'm talking, when I say you, I'm talking me. I'm talking from my own personal experiences with these videos. I'm not advice. Um, so just take it as anecdotal. If something resonates, then it's understandable. So I'll continue with the situation of where I live and the fact that there is a cultural, or was a cultural, norm to constantly bully and belittle each other. And it has been seen as a term of endearment, as something of love. And this is, I think, a trick, not necessarily by narcissists, but to normalize the whole aspect of this. I do believe that you become stronger from having a certain amount of bullying, but it's not nice. And what it does overall is it will break you down and it will cause you to dissociate, and you'll lose time, you'll give up on things. So it does not it does not need to exist in this world. There needs to be a place in this world where people can make fun of each other without it being such a deep dig at the person that will actually hurt them so much that they will change their life. And this is what I'm talking about, that there is a point where it is unnecessary. And I don't think it's really necessary in most situations. When someone, and I'm continuing on with the way it is in Australia, is that if someone is making fun of you, if they're doing it in a way that they know that they're only just making fun of you for the joke of the making fun of you, then it's okay, because it's not hitting you and directly hurting you on a personal level. But when it's pulled back a little bit and a little bit more subtle, what happens is it's an incremental eating away at the soul, and it breaks you down. I think a lot of bullies and narcissists are really sad people that have somehow they're missing something. So for them it's a sport, or it's like they're they're missing out on something themselves. And often what you find from reading literature and stuff is that a lot of narcissists have been abused themselves, but that doesn't mean that they should continue what they're doing. And I think I've suffered many times, countless times in my life, at crucial times where people have basically taken me from a place where I was optimistic and trying to do things and succeed, and been really positive about things, and they come along and just wreck it, destroy it for you. I'll go into my experiences where I've identified their tactics, and what I've seen is that most of these bullies or narcissists will befriend you, or they'll allow you to be in a comfortable place, and they'll wait for you to open up. And once you open yourself up, they wait a little bit more, and then they attack. So the attack is much more severe than what it would be if you were guarded. So how do you guard yourself? It's very difficult, because if you're if you're having a conversation with either it's rarely a stranger. It's usually a workmate, a colleague, a friend, and it can be people closer to that. Um, it'll be someone you have connection with, and you will be making yourself vulnerable, and sometimes they will set you up to be vulnerable. And this is where holding a guard up is crucial. But if you hold your guard up, you're going to shut yourself down, And a lot of empathic people don't want to do that. They want to be friendly and continue conversations and be vulnerable. They will talk about things that are able to be attacked. But see, it's not always there where they attack you. You might make yourself open and vulnerable, and it's a little bit after you've been vulnerable, but you're still not engaging. And the attack is comes out of nowhere because you weren't expecting it. So what do you do? Do you say nothing or do you talk? When you can hold up a guard and protect yourself in that way. But what it does is means you have to use so much energy, and you have to change your whole way you talk and respond. And you don't want to do that because you're a friendly person and you like having open conversations about lots of different things. If you do that, you get attacked. When it's in a workplace, you're often under stress and you're busy. There's timelines, deadlines, time, and time is important. So, and there's the hierarchical structure of workplaces. So within that, you have the inability to respond to certain people in a certain way based on that. So if you're the new person there, you're just going to cop it. It takes time for you to establish your place in the workplace before you can actually start to guard yourself from these attacks. When you when you're in a private situation, it's different because you already have a long-standing relationship with people. The problem with putting up a guard is that it changes the way you communicate, and you don't want to do that. You're also tricked into doing this. You didn't mean to open up, but the narcissist might understand that you are an empathic person or you're excitable, so they will put you on a train of um, topics until they find one that they can attack you on. And there's no need for it. If someone attacks you for no reason, really they're the one that is hurting. But are they really? Because what we understand about narcissists is they actually get off on this sort of stuff, or in a covert sense, from what I understand, is that um, it's like a game that they play where they repress themselves and it's their only outlet. So there, it's a the cycle of violence where people will continue on an attack from what's happened to them, and this happens in cases for all types of violence and abuse. There are situations that I've experienced where I've managed to acknowledge that what's going on, and I am clearly in a state of distress. And the bully or the narcissist will understand this. And like a cat playing with its mouse that it's caught, it will play with it for a while. It won't kill it straight away. So what they'll do is they'll pull back and they'll wait for another time to attack. Again, like there's no need for any of this. It's not going to make people stronger by attacking them in these ways. All it does is it's it's psychological abuse, it's violence, but it's done in a way where there is no blood, and it's almost impossible to prove. Now, this is why they get away with it, because they are able to just continue doing the things that they do because there's no remorse, there's no ramifications. A small amount of bullying can make you stronger. And sometimes, I guess, people like when I say people, I'm saying myself. Sometimes I've been in situations where I've been too not needy, but I've been too much of a people pleaser. So I've actually created my own trap where I've actually set myself up. It's almost like a con man or a pickpocket that comes along and they spot you from a mile off. And they've spotted you because you're blasé or you're um, not taking care of protecting your own personal belongings. And so, what I'm trying to say is that you can put a guard up without affecting you from, you can still be yourself, you can still retain your core values without actually losing parts of yourself. And you still want to be able to engage with these people. I find, especially in workplaces where I was singled out and bullied, it didn't last that long because they would run out of steam after a while. Maybe they got in trouble for, they got caught doing what they were doing. But I think in a lot of places, my experiences were the actual, the bully themselves realized that they weren't going to win against you. And so their only sort of thing they can do at that point is actually to befriend you. And when they befriend you, you actually see their vulnerabilities and you actually see that they are lacking a lot of things themselves. And you can actually feel sorry for them or empathize with their situation. It doesn't mean that you forgive them for their attacks, but there is this unconscious, or sorry, unsaid resolution to the situation. And I've experienced in many times that they don't start up again. I think narcissists and bullies can actually learn to stop. The sad thing is they will probably keep on doing what they're doing to other people once they've stopped on you. So I don't know what can be done in that situation, except that, they have their own sort of conscience, karma, or um, judgment, however you want to look at it, that will come to them. And you want to hope that they can actually learn themselves to grow and stop doing what they're doing. And that can happen too. I truly believe that um, narcissists, bullies, abusers can change. I don't know how that happens, and I think it's different for all different situations, but I do believe that they can go through their own remorse and um, introspection and realize that they need to change themselves. And sometimes their they go through a lot of pain themselves, because what they're doing is they're inflicting pain on others. So they eventually run out of people to attack. So this affects their life, and they realize they have to pull back. Where I have struggled is I'm too friendly and I'm too much of a people pleaser, and I don't stand up for myself enough. So what I'll jump in with a tactic that I've found works, but it is very hard to actually implement. So if someone says something to you that is clearly an attack, what it does is it puts your body into a fright freeze mode. You shut down, dissociate. So you're not able to actually respond properly at that time. But if you can, when they say whatever it is they say to you, all you have to say is, "Sorry, what did you say? Could you please repeat what you just said to me? I didn't quite hear you properly." Something very similar to that, and it shuts them down straight away. They have to then repeat what they just said to you. Now, in that instance, when you do that, if they actually go, "Oh, sorry, I don't know, what was I saying?" Or, "Oh, I don't know, that was just something on the top of my head. I didn't mean that." Or, any of these sorts of like throwaway responses that could somehow stop you from being on the trail of what they're doing, because you've caught them out. You could even take it further, and you could say, "Would you actually want to repeat that again and repeat that in front of someone else so that they can hear that?" That then puts you in danger. You have to be very careful with these people. You don't want to antagonize them or escalate the situation. They're crafty people, and these are the ones who are the narcissists that are um, both overt and covert. So if you if you raise yourself to the point where you're calling them out and you're stopping them in their tracks, what will happen is that you're actually you've already got a target on you from them, but you've escalated the situation, and it's you don't want to escalate situations in I believe in most things you want to de-escalate the situation. So if if you can find a method and means and research the well-known strategies that are out there, do it. Don't listen to me, but this is just my experiences. So if they make sense to you, then but I can tell you, if someone says something to you in between, and I'll continue on, is, and I think I've talked about this before, is that often the attacks will come in compliments, and it's like love bombing. You might have heard the thing about love bombing, or um, they're pragmatic. They will wait. They will sit and prey on their target. So they will be happy to, you know, in a workplace, for instance, they only have to do it once a day, and then they can spend the rest of the day thinking, gloating about how much they attacked this person and they got away with it. That's just, I mean, you try and wonder why people do these things, and I think that in a lot of cases these are unconscious learned behaviors, and that they are still haven't developed from their childhood themselves. So you can forgive somehow the bully, and if you forgive the bully and meet them at a place where you've told them that you're not going to take it anymore, in a way that you're not going to escalate the situation, you'll be safe in that situation, because they have as like an ethical code. They're not complete psychopaths. They're um, well, I don't know. I'm just talking about this stuff, and you know, you can only take what I say as my experience and my opinion. But I do believe that they are fragile themselves, and if you can neutralize their attacks, and you can stop them from doing what they're doing. But if you escalate with the wrong person, they will target you intensely. And this can actually escalate into sabotaging your life. They can actually sabotage. I've had people sabotage my workplace before, where they've gone sabotage jobs on me, and I can't prove that they'd done it, but it's almost undeniable that someone's come along and messed up my work, and I have to now fix it. And no one's been in this area. No, it's impossible for this thing to occur. So how do you explain this? So if things happen like that, that means that you've either escalated the situation and the person is now resorting to physical sabotage or attacks, um, then you're in trouble. Uh, Often they will try and um, get other people around you. Like, I'm using a workplace example here. They'll often try and attack you through your other workmates. But the problem is for them is in a lot of cases that I've experienced is that there's only one or two of these narcissists that are actually these bullies in a workplace. So when they try and actually do these things, they're not going to get very far because the people that you work with already know this person's history. So they're not going to actually believe the person, or they'll suspect that the person is actually the one causing these problems. There is almost an infinite way that bullying can occur, and it's it's such a hard thing to deal with because it it happens when you're not expecting it, and even when you are expecting it, you might be so busy that you're not prepared to deflect the attacks. And there's no need for it. Especially like if you're a friendly person and you're a happy person and someone's attacking you, they're only hurting themselves, but like they won't know this until later because you know, it won't be until they've lost their job, lost all their friends, lost their marriage, all of these things until they realize that they're doing everything the wrong way. And this is I'm speaking here mainly talking about the overt narcissists that are deliberate and pathological. They can't help what they're doing. When you have someone who is pathological and is deliberate and loud, they become known for being a bully. And that makes it easier to actually deflect their attacks because you're able to say, "Oh yeah, but you're just a bully. So I'm not going to be hurt by what you say." And and that does make that easier. But when they're covert, then they themselves may not even realize they're doing it. And that's sort of what I want to talk about now is that there is there is allowed there is an allowed amount of this sort of abuse to exist. And it's seen in you can watch TV shows and movies and read books, all these things. It exists in these places where people are showing that this stuff goes on. But where we see it the most is in the mass media of um, political discourse and public opinion, where the actual presenters and headlines, articles are just straight out attacks and bullying because they come from places where there's no basis for the attack. And it can be easily shown to be false or proven to be questionable. So, what you could basically draw from that is that um, there are there are centers where this behavior is then replicated by people throughout the population. And that's where I think mass media, commentators, and articles from news media that portray this sort of unhinged attacks on each other shows that on a societal level, this stuff happens just constantly. I've I do have more to say, but I might just go through and read some of the live chat and see how everyone's going. La Radis Quadrata. I think I've said it right this time. How you going, brother? Yeah, I'm glad to be here. I won't be able to read all your comments because there's too many at the moment. But you say I try to remember in the environment I'm in, and I adapt my response with friends and family. I can respond casually and intimately, and remember not to do it anymore. That's it. Being conscious and aware. So you change when you're in different social settings. You change your modes and your behaviors. So this is a tactic I am was thinking of, and it comes back to holding up a guard against situations. Is that identifying the situation and social setting, and then remembering to put up a guard so that you're not going to you're going to respond in the correct way. You're not going to escalate a situation, and the problem is when you forget to do that, you become vulnerable. And this is where, again, if you're being primed, like if you've got a really clever narcissist that knows what they're doing, they will actually spend time. And that like I was saying, in the workplace, you might have this one bully that doesn't care about coming around and making fun of you all the time. They're happy to do it at the right time, and in fact, um, they see that if they can do it with the most amount of impact and damage, they get off on that. I'm sure they do, and I'm sure I've seen. I'm sure the experiences that I've had have been that where I've seen the person see me be upset and then glee about it, and then they don't come back for the rest of the day because they know that they've had their fill. Next comment is like, in the workplace, I try to be professional and neutral. Then I take 2 minutes privately with the person and calmly explain them not to do it anymore. That's really great. That what you're doing there is you're being very civil, and you're isolating them to the point where you're actually standing up for yourself in a big way. Just by being able to actually speak to them privately and tell them directly is probably the best way to educate them. And I think in a lot of cases that will de-escalate and slow down attacks. When I'm in front of a narcissist, or I try to go for the clear-cut emotionalists, I try to pin them in front of people. If it isn't possible, then I show them I don't care. Even do, then it destroys me. Yeah, look, that is brilliant. Like, that is exactly what you do. If you want to have witnesses, and in fact, that's a big thing that stops them too. Is because they don't want to get caught. They'll lose their job, or they'll get demoted or reprimanded. If you're able to do these things, like, and also being emotionless, because they sense your emotion, so if you're able to do it in a very calm way, it's gonna stop it quicker. And what you say is that show them that you don't care. Like, the, I think a lot of the reason why they attack is because they know that it's something you care about, and it will if you can be resilient to that and remove yourself from the emotion and the ramifications of it, and you don't mind, it's just like taking punches. Eventually they'll give up, because they'll realize that it's not going to hurt you. I'll keep reading these comments. These are great. But with narcissistic, it's important to be stone cold, even if you're a nice person. I agree with that too. Like, by showing emotion, you're actually feeding their impulses to actually continue the attacks. I'll sort of go on a bit too further. Like, another thing you can do is you can play their game and not actually attack them back. So you can, if they're using like sort of subtle jokes that have a deep hurt meaning to a portion of the joke to the person, and you're able to basically, it's obviously hurts you, but then some point in the future you spring a joke on them where you're actually making a joke about them, but you're not actually making a really deep dig at them, but you're actually showing them that this is what they're doing to you, but you're not actually going to take it as far. It's almost like, that's worked for me anyway. It lets them know that, and I think that's a big thing between the conscious and the unconscious attacks, is once they're very aware, like they know that they can see you from a mile off. Like, if you've become a target, then they've already identified you as an easy target. They're not going to go for the person who's already stood up for themselves. So it's a way of standing up for yourself by joking back with them, and they actually respect it in a way, which is strange. I guess they think they're educating you to make you tougher. I think I sort of mentioned this a little bit earlier, that I think that some bullying and narcissistic abuse is seen by the abuser as a way to toughen up the individual that they're attacking, or to, from their perspective, de-escalate the seriousness of the situation. And again, going back to what I was saying at the beginning about, in Australia, the Aussie culture of knocking each other down is a way of de-escalating things, because if everyone's making fun of each other, then we're all having a light-hearted joke, and it can be seen as not such a personal attack. Unfortunately, what happens is, in this culture where it's a constant making fun of each other, you could get a situation where it escalates within those jokes. So it starts off as being friendly banter, and then escalates to the point where it becomes personal digs that are very hurtful and can have long running ramifications for the individual that's been hurt. How you going, Barb? Nice to see you here. Yeah, I'm well. I'm doing good. Hope you're doing good. Um, I'll keep reading these comments because they're great. In my old job, my boss was an abuser, and he treated me like a dog. But I have strong sense of duty I took, and a couple of times even resulted in physical harm. I feel you, brother. That's I'm sorry to hear that. That sounds like a really tough situation, and um, especially when you're obviously, like you say, you have a strong sense of duty and you're working hard. You're doing everything you need to be doing to perform your tasks at work, but you're also being treated in a very negative way, and it's not seen like it. That I've I've had once I had a boss. I've had a lot of really good bosses that were very understanding of me, but I did have some that were difficult, and there was one that actually was like that. And when I I would work hard, and he would keep doing it, and I thought he would stop once he saw how much hard work I was doing, and I was staying back late and doing all this stuff for him, and he didn't stop. And this guy actually admitted to me that he was a psychopath. He said, "I'm a psychopath." I was like, "Oh shit." That's Yeah, he actually said it to me. And I think he was one of those types that thought he was making me stronger, and it was his duty to actually toughen me up by trying to break me. But that's the saddest thing is that if you have a very strong sense of duty and you work hard and you don't want to actually be a part of any of this sort of um, hierarchical oppressive culture, um, it's not enough. Sometimes sometimes I'm sure that they gain respect from you, but once they know they can't change you, they have to accept you, you know. And it did change. And in fact, this person I'm talking about, um, I ran into him at another workplace many years later, and I got to joke about him, and it was my way of actually returning the favor to him. But I didn't really make fun of him. But I was in a position where he came into my workplace, and I'll actually jump into a new topic here. If you are being if it's your house or your workplace, and someone comes into that workplace or house and they attack you there, it's a lot worse than if it's in public and neutral place. If you're and that's why I felt like I was able to actually joke back to this person who had been abusive to me for about a year, many years before that. And I didn't really make fun of him that bad. It's almost like he was making fun of himself at the time, in a way. So he came to where I was working, and he was wearing this massive jacket, like a trench coat, and it was almost the middle of summer, but he thought he was doing it to make a joke with someone else there. And I just said, "Oh, you look ridiculous. You think you're a bush ranger or Ned Kelly or something?" And for me, it was like a victory for me because I was actually able to actually stand up for myself in that situation and make fun of this person. And to be honest, I wasn't really making fun of him. It was quite a very much a light-hearted dig, whereas the attacks that he used to actually do on me were very severe, and I just kept taking him. So he was punching me hard, metaphorically, and all I did was pretend to slap him back and not even touch him. So even then, when I was making fun of him, it wasn't even really making fun of him. So you do contribute. Like, it's hard not to contribute in here. Like, growing up here, where joking, banter, and making fun of each other is like ingrained in the society. It's hard not to actually do it. You know, um, we're sort of taught to do it, and you, when you experience it from people that you trust, or you're like, you can expect it from certain superiors and things like that. But when it does come from the wrong people, it really hurts you more. Again, la radis quadrata. The only thing that make me feel tippy from is the man that uneducated and ignorant, and he felt envy. I think that's I think that's a big thing, is that there are bullies that are very intelligent, but I think most bullies aren't. I think well, depends on how they attack you. I think they can become very um, I think sympathy towards them is the best. I think it's the best way, and to just don't engage. And when it really does hurt you, I think going back to what you said before is like actually calling them out is the best thing. I got away too late. They ruined my life. My advice would be get far away as soon as you see what they are, because they are evil. I think that's a best. Avoidance is a really good thing. Unfortunately, you can't avoid these people all the time, and depending on your placement, sometimes you're basically stuck with this person. And if it's in a work situation, you might be there 12 hours or 10 hours a day, and you can't get away. Um, you can change a job, but you can't just change a job. It's not easy. Like, um, but if you can avoid them, if you can just get away from them, that is, and also silence. Like, this is something that happens to me, is if usually if someone includes a personal attack in communication that's come out of nowhere and is completely unprovoked, my best response is to smile and not say anything. Or continue the rest of the conversation and say, thanks, see you later. But that to me is also avoidance. Like, you're not responding, but you're giving them the dignity of the fact that you're not just going to be completely silent, because that will actually feed into their desires of hurting you. So if they've shut you down to the point where you're not going to speak, they know that they've actually succeeded. So by being strong enough to be polite and courteous, and just get away from them as quick as you can, but not so quick that they see that they've made you run away. You want to just get away from them in a calm, smooth sort of manner, so that you're not, again, encouraging them. We got Sam likes fruit. I've just realised my dad's took the piss out of me my whole life. My uncle, always a joke at others' expense, even children. Yeah, that is very hard to deal with when it's a family member, or um, very. It's very painful if it comes from someone closer. It's easy when it's a colleague at work, or someone at your college or your high school or wherever it is. Um, for me, I'm going back to the childhood bullying is really painful when you're a child, but then you can look back and go, yeah, but they didn't even know what they're doing. When it's someone that is 20 years older than you, and you're meant to look up to them, and you're meant to look at them like they're a role model, and they're actually doing this stuff, especially when they know, it's hurting you. Um, there is healthy amounts of banter that will encourage you to grow stronger, but there is a very fine line where that becomes abusive, and when it goes too far, it's not helping you at all. It's making you shut down, it's making you give up on things, and it's going to hurt you internally for a long time until you can come to terms with it, and you may never ever get over it. That's the you may get over it to a point, but there'll be still a pain that's associated with that, because your relationship with that person has been affected by that. So Sam also says, then it's no surprise we accept this from others throughout life. Yes, true. That's a massive thing, and that's why I was talking earlier about how um, comedians, like mainstream comedians, mass media, headlines, attack pieces in the media, um, commentators, people that are obsessed with like attacking other people, are normalizing this stuff. And so when people see this stuff, they replicate it, they mimic it, and it's normalized. And again, I think there's a healthy amount of like being able to make fun of each other. We need to be able to do that as a species that speaks in words, and we've developed this language. But there is a point where it's not actually doing any benefit at all. All it's doing is perpetuating disconfirmation and negative reinforcement. So, and it just gets replicated, and um, it doesn't affect the covert, and like the it doesn't affect the real nasty bullies that single you out. They're different. I think what you're talking about here is generalized um, bullying and abuse, because this is what we see sort of everywhere. Back to Quadrata. By the way, none of them would have the courage to open up and be honest in front of a camera. That's it. That's exactly it. There's not many of these bullies that actually reform and um, will actually atone and even just talk about their regret for being the way they are. I think a lot of bullies grow up eventually, and I think it happens to them at different stages depending on what, their own personal situation. Some never fully grow up and they keep doing it. Some keep doing it their whole life and they're like um, habitual abusers. They get worse and worse. But I think what happens is over time, um, they receive ramifications for what they do because all they're doing is really hurting themselves. Um, for instance, I'll go back to what I was talking about 5 minutes ago or whatever, when I was talking about a particular boss I had, and he was quite abusive, and he even told me himself he was a psychopath, and um, he got off on telling me how much, you know, he thinks he's doing a good job toughening me up, but he couldn't break me because I'm a sort of person who's so nice. I think I'm so nice, but I'm too nice. I'm like a people pleaser, and that's actually a fault I have because I set myself up for these situations. But he thought he was trying to give me a reason to protect myself against other psychopaths and narcissists. I think he was thinking that he was trying to educate me. But what happened to this person was he ended up getting very sick. His business fell apart. His partner ripped him off money. His wife left him. He had all these things happen to him in his life, and I did feel sorry for him because I'm an empathic person. I was like, well, I'm sad that this happened to you, and I didn't like to think that it was because it was his own fault, but I think it may have been the fact that he did set himself up for this, and he can't blame anyone else but himself for what he went through. And I think it was too late for him at that stage because he'd lost his wife, and he was, you know he lost his business, he lost his wife, and he was physically sick. And I don't think it changed him, but I think it. Well, I don't know. I at that point I cut ties and I didn't want to actually know anymore. But I did not feel any glee about it at all. Um, I did feel sorry for the fact that he'd diminished and degraded to that point because he wasn't all bad. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't all bad. It was just aspects of his personality and the way he treated me that had hurt me. Back to Sam likes fruit. I just realized, oh no, here we go. And it's no surprise we accept this from others throughout life. I think I read that comment before. Um, I don't think they're capable of being honest. Yeah, I do believe that narcissists and bullies um, are habitual liars. Um, I think they can be honest to a point, but I think there's a point where, um, I, especially if they're manipulators, they will lie to you to manipulate you to get you to do certain things. So, um, yeah, I don't think they're capable of being honest too. If they were honest, then they would also have to look at their own actions, and it's it's sort of part of it all. And you said the same thing that was said earlier, that you were stuck. That someone else said earlier, that yes, I was stuck. Thank God, not now, but I wish I got out quicker. And that's something that I've felt myself, is that um, you are stuck. That um, you're in a lot of ways, these attacks happen mostly because you are trapped. You're an isolated individual, and then they can have more fun with you, mostly because they're out of watch from others. So it allows them to continue the behavior. And so you are stuck, and they want to keep you stuck as long as possible so that they can keep playing this game that they're doing. Um, and you're stuck. You're the individual that's stuck, and you wish you can just get away, but you're being manipulated and made fun of. So you're not actually necessarily thinking about getting away. And in a lot of situations where I've been in, it's not possible. So you you're trapped in a job and you can't just leave the job. So um, it'd be great to be able to quit a job and then get a new job the next day, but it's just not possible. You got bills and things like that. So in relationship situations, it's the same. Um, you know, I've never been married or anything, but people who've had spouses that are abusers, then they're very trapped. Like they're very invested and they can't get away. And so, um, if it's just a job, you can always get another job, you know, but you're stuck. You can't just walk out of your job. You've got bills to pay. Then you have the difficulty of you've got to go and find another job. So I think I think being trapped and isolated is one of the main um, sort of reasons why this abuse can continue on for a long time. So bullying in a more temporary way, or in a situation where you don't have these um, where you're not have the potential to be stuck in a situation, it's not going to occur over and over, and it's not going to be as severe. um, I wish I had answers. um, I really did. I really do wish I had answers. Sorry. There are ways to actually deal with, and to I did say it very early on, is one tactic is to basically get them to repeat what they just said and to call them out. Unfortunately, if it's gaslighting and they're doing things like sabotaging your work, it's almost impossible to prove. Um, I don't have answers. Um, not my my I can't give advice, but what I can do is tell you what's worked for me, and calling them out, looking them in the eye and saying, you know, yes, being polite to them. That was another one I said. Being polite to them. Don't play their game. Um, and a slow, strategic retreat from the situation is the best. If you cut and run, they'll get off on the fact that you've now going through the drama of um, having left a situation, and whatever things you have to deal with by actually leaving a situation. Um, and another one is, it's like resilience, but it's standing your ground. So um, basically taking the attacks until they give up, and eventually they will give up. If they get to a point and they realize they can't actually do anything, they can't go any further, um, and they will sort of slow down and stop. There are situations where doing that actually puts you through much more harm. So you, when you have an opportunity to get away and you don't, but you think, oh, look, I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to remain happy and friendly and positive until they get over what they're doing and they'll give up. If you do that and you think that it's not going to hurt you, it's not it's that's not correct, because it's going to hurt you. So getting away when you can is probably the best way to protect you, but then you're going to go through the agony of having to change everything. If you have to leave your job and find another job just because of this one person, um, you're actually going to go through a lot of pain. But then if you stay there for 6 months or another year or a couple of years, thinking that they're going to give up, you might go through 6 months or a couple of years of repeated abuse, you know that's just uncalled for. um, so that I think, as humans, we need to become more educated as to how we deal with these people. And I'm no expert, except I've experienced a lot of it. I have. So um, I'm like a target for these people, and that's why I shut myself away from society a lot, because at the same time, I've had a lot of success in stopping these people from their attacks, and they are simple things. So it's either calling them out, standing your ground, and even you don't want to dob on them. You don't want to go to a superior and say, look, oh, this person's causing me trouble. Really, they're going to cause themselves trouble. So focus on doing what you can. But if it's a really bad situation, the best thing to do is to get away from it. So look for another job or whatever it is. Um, but if you have to do that, I don't know. Like if it's a relationship, people can change. Um, I don't know. People, I think there's a lot of consciously aware narcissists out there and psychopaths that wish they weren't, and they can't help it, and they want to try and stop what they're doing. So we do need to have we do need to forgive as much as we can. So I think I've said as much as I can say tonight. I just want to thank everyone who's been here, and I've enjoyed reading the comments. They It's good to see that everyone's got tactics to um, deal with these situations, and I guess don't change yourself. Be good, and like, we've just got a couple more comments before I close the stream. It's like Sam says, even with the broken hand he gave me, I can still throw. So that's resilience right there. And Loratis Quadrata, you're not the target. They can hurt you, but remember, it's their own hell, and it belongs in their mind. You are stronger than them. That's exactly it. You're stronger than them. So yes, I will do the sunrise. We've had rain for the last week, so I haven't been able to do that. So I'm going to go take my camera up and watch the sunrise. So that'll happen in the next week, mate. I look forward to it. I really do. Thanks everyone for being here, and I appreciate it all. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Good night.